Music, a universal language. It can make you feel your highest highs and lowest lows. It's created in every culture of the world in many different ways, shapes, and forms. It's a long-standing monolith of what the human spirit can imagine to create. But how does it affect our community? How does it affect our society? Well, today I have on a local hometown hero and mentor of mine and many of my peers on to speak a little bit about it. You are now listening to the Speaking with the Shaman podcast. All right, Dre Ovalle, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
Good, thank you for having me.
So I wanted to have you on because through all of my life, I've known you as a mentor, a leader in our community music-wise, and just above all, stand-up person. So I'd just love for you to explain about all of the influence that you've had within our community in the sense of music and how you've touched and reached people in that sense with your job, with your passion, just your above all understanding of how it affects the community and the culture.
Yeah, I'm big on self-education, first of all. So I like teaching others how to, make a living from their career or art, or how to market themselves more, how to be just how to be a better overall musician or person in general. So I do that everything from talking to people to sharing books to sharing memes to,
of course,
plenty of memes. So yeah, that's my big thing, just music and self-education.
So my influence with you has been always working around the local community nightlife and seeing you interacting with things like Trenton Social or Mill Hill Experiment, and just seeing all of the knowledge and information that you've helped provide and give to the people around you. And that's one thing that I definitely would love to speak on today, and all of the social environments that are around us in New York and Philadelphia that you've been involved with. But let's take it a step back and get people to know you a little bit more. So let's start with just telling everybody who you are and kind of what you're doing and how you're interacting with the community nowadays.
Okay. My name is Dre Ovalle. So yeah, I've been a DJ since I was 15. I'm now 33, so I got a few years on me. It didn't become a passion until I was like 18, and it didn't become my full-time thing until I was 25. So it was a process. The way it started was I was at the time 2003, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Trance music was like the big thing at the time, and my little ears heard a trance song, an Infected Mushroom song, I think, on Morpheus or Kazaa or one of those old download LimeWire. I forgot which one was it. And I downloaded that and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool music. So I started going to forums, websites, just anything that had to do with electronic music. And then I found this forum called tranceaddict.com. Mm-hmm. And it's still around. Barely anyone posted. The website looks like it's from the 2000s, so it looks old. But I met a whole bunch of DJs there, and I met one in particular. He said, "Do you want to start listening to a show on a Yahoo chat room?" That's how we used to listen to to DJs.
Throwing it
back.
Yeah.
So, he introduced me to something called UK Hard House, and from there, I fell in love with seeing him DJ every week, pretty much every Friday night. Mm-hmm. Hearing him and seeing him, because at the time you could hear DJs, but you couldn't see him because it's difficult to get video content back in 2003 through the internet.
Yeah.
But so he was one of the first guys that did that. And I met other people, like some guy in Colorado. He was a producer, and he said he got me into like Sasha, John Digweed.
Something that you've got me into, yeah.
So he got me into that, and he showed me his music. So all these older guys showing me how to, do things. And so one day I decided, like, yo, I wanna try doing this. So I told my mom, can you get me my, my first DJ setup?
Mm-hmm.
And she bought me, I think, like, it was a CD, Newmark CD Mix 2, and the thing was, it's crap.
Ancient,
yeah,
yes.
it's ancient, yeah. But it was my first one, and at the time, like, that's a lot of money for my mom, so, like, I was very thankful she got me that.
Of course.
So, she got this thing, and I remember my stepfather setting it up in the basement, and him showing us how to work it, but with like CDs he had, so like old reggaeton or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he's showing us how to do it, and then me and my friend get down there, and we're pressing the buttons, and we're like, remind you, at the time I was 15, I wasn't sure exactly the difference between a DJ and a producer.
Of course.
So I go down to my mixer, I'm like, so how do I make music? And then for anyone watching, the difference between a DJ and a producer is the DJ mixes the music to make a continuous mix versus a producer makes the individual track that the DJ uses.
Of course.
So that's for anyone that is not familiar with the terms. But so I got me and him are playing it, and we're just touching the buttons. So I'm like, where's the drums? Where's the synth? How do you make music? So I was a little bit disappointed to find out
the Native Instruments machine yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like we were a little disappointed in the fact knowing that, oh, that's not how you make music. It's just to play it. So, but over, like, I think that same year I ended up getting my first job at a real estate agency as a receptionist. Mm-hmm. And at 16 too. I don't know what they were doing. I probably look older than most people. But anyway, I got my first paycheck, and that first paycheck, I remember it blowing the entire thing on like 2 Gemini speakers, a keyboard,
all the
a computer.
accessories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember blowing like the entire first month. I just blew all my money on like everything music related. So I started getting into making music, making trance music, and that developed over the years. But then I had like a good solid break for like a good 3 years between electronic music. I was still into it. I was still going to parties, but
yeah,
that's around the time my brother started playing guitar.
So let's take a step back.
Yes.
And has music always been such a prevalent influence in your life? And I mean this in the sense of, do you have any family member, or one, I'd like to point out that your brother is a virtuoso in the sense of his writing of music, guitar-wise, from what I remember. I just remember him having hard drives and hard drives of his recorded music, and hearing him play, he was amazing.
Yeah.
So has that run throughout your family at all? Do you have any older relatives there that are musicians? That
I know that I've met personally, no, but my mom did tell me, and she showed me a few CDs. We have a grandparent, I think, who was a very well-known marimba player in Guatemala, and his music is known throughout the entire world. He has CDs and everything.
Wow.
But I never met the guy. I don't think he even exists.
I've never heard this story.
Yeah. I don't think he even exists either. I think he passed away years ago.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But I remember my mom, like when we were kids, my mom was huge into music. That's probably why we got into it. But she always used to ask my stepfather, like, why aren't these kids into music? Like at all. We were like 11 or 10. We just didn't vibe with music. We were like on video games. I don't know. So my mom, she always wondered that. And then like, who would have known, like 4 years later, we would have just been obsessed with that.
So let's go back to growing up, even when you were younger. What kind of genres were you listening to, in the sense, and that's another thing that we'll get to, going back to what we were talking about before, is I'd like to diagnose the whole world of genres and the ways that musicians affect them.
Yeah.
But when you were growing up, or I know you, when I met you, you were heavy into metal and...
Still.
Yeah, of course, but that was one of your main factions. That you liked Pantera, and I think we had a common interest in bands like Between the Buried and Me.
Yeah.
And what were you listening to growing up when you were younger than 15, before you got on the trance wave?
Was listening metal, Spanish pop music and rap music. My first three tapes, not CDs, like actual tapes, was a Mexican band called I don't even remember the name of the band, but they had a really popular hit like in 1992.
What was the song's name?
Vuela Vuela. It's actually it's sampled from a Russian song, and they just transformed it into a Spanish song, and it became a bigger hit in Spanish. But anyway,
I feel like I've heard.
You
of
probably
song.
heard.
I feel like I have heard that.
So yeah, that was one of my first tapes, and then my second one was a Naughty by Nature, hip hop parade.
Which I have a great story to bring up later. About.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That one
also one of my favorite groups.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Yeah. And what was the third one? And this Spanish singer. She was like the Britney Spears at the time. Her name was Thalia. That was like one of my first tapes.
Haven't heard.
It's all Spanish music from the past. Yeah. So that, and then I started getting into metal, and my first metal tapes were Limp Bizkit, Korn, Deftones, because that's what was big in the 90s. And yeah, and just all the old music my mom used to listen to, because she was big on like funk. She was big on American music, even though she barely spoke the language.
And just to give perspective, what year were you born? Just curious.
88.
Okay, so I'm a 93 baby. And going back to my roots in music, by the way, I also own a small music company out in Colorado, and we do more stuff like ghost production and behind the scenes stuff rather than put our artists out in the open. We more so work with artists, and it's not for profit. It's really just because, again, I love music.
Yeah.
And it's a great hobby to have. But going back to like my roots, I remember like my dad bringing me home mixtapes, because he used to work in Trenton, of things like of guys like Doo Doo Brown, or I wasn't into metal until my teenage years, but growing up I was into groups like Tom Petty and Led Zeppelin, and Kanye was like my generation's the people that we looked up to. Young Jeezy, T.I., 50 Cent, like that whole wave of the 2000s music that was really core with millennials. But now, and especially after meeting you, which again, like just skyrocketed me into that music realm of figuring out how to see through all of the doors rather than picking. That's something that you taught me, is that it wasn't about picking a genre. It was about all of it.
Yeah.
And the more that you open yourself to it, the more culture that you'll get, the more wisdom that you get.
More opportunities, everything.
Yeah, opportunities. Yeah. One thing I'd love to bring up is, in that sense of culture, in the last few years, you've started working as a DJ for weddings and stuff. You've incorporated that into your business. And what I love to see about that was you started even learning parts of the languages of some of the cultures that you were doing weddings for. And that's another way that music had influenced your life to learn more about. And what languages were you? I know Polish?
Yeah, well, a few of them actually.
Yeah, it was multiple.
Polish, Ukrainian, Portuguese, Spanish, of course, English, and what else can I do? God, I forgot. It's just world music pretty much in general.
It's incredible that, like, again, like just being on that pathway and having all of those doors open to you just from being
open.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's another thing that I think like more people need to hear, more people need to see. And thank you for, again, being that generator of just anything is possible.
True. I agree. I completely agree with that. Too many people close themselves off to what's out there, I guess.
Absolutely.
And they want to do things their way, which is fine. But as long as you have like an open mind to music and everything, and you're willing to learn, that's the top thing. If you're willing to learn, opportunities come out of nowhere. One thing leads to another. One thing leads to another, and then
every time,
next thing you know, you're like let's say for instance, for me, like the reason I got into Polish, Ukrainians, because I was playing a few bars, clubs, and I wanted to learn their music, so I looked into it. I started taking Polish lessons. I can't remember a damn thing. And yeah, so from there I was known as the Spanish guy that knew Polish music, and from there I did weddings, and now I got Polish families contacting me for their parties and whatever.
So in that same sense, one of my experiences like that was you had me play at a local Spanish bar, and I had to research a ton of Spanish music, and I ended up doing like a conga electronic house music set with you at a bar in Trenton.
Wow, I don't remember that.
Years ago, and it ended up like I don't think anybody even showed up, but you and me spun that night, and I did an entire set of Spanish music, and I always spun electronic music. Like that was my thing.
Yeah.
But that was another door that was open because again, it was just another opportunity that came along with an open mind.
I don't remember that, but that's awesome, really.
Yeah.
See, just over the years, everything just you forget everything.
That had to have been more than 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah. Long time.
I don't remember. Wow. What?
So let's bring it back. We got all of these genres of music. I'll start it with this. I saw a meme this morning of if you could name 3 musicians or artists that describe your person, what 3 would those be?
Oh man,
I have my answer. So what's yours?
This is difficult.
And it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
But a full collaborative of all of your personalities, and I know you have many.
I guess one of my top ones would be Spango, maybe.
Yeah.
Because that's my weird side. I can't think what would be my entertaining side, my funny side. This is very difficult. I guess I'll just name the top 3. I feel like that resemble me. I guess
Okay.
So I will say Spango, some Deftones, and what else do I like? Yeah, let's go with Infected Mushroom. Let's go with that.
All right.
Yeah.
So my answer was Raja Ram from Schwangel. And that's another story we could talk about is I'll bring that up next.
Yeah.
Tom Petty.
Okay.
Tom Petty is
Great.
probably one of my favorite singer-songwriters just because of how he connects with people. His lyrics transcend male, female. They really just reach to the core of your soul, and they just resonate with anybody. If you
agreed, yeah.
It's hard to find somebody to walk up to and say like, "Hey, you hate Tom Petty?"
Yeah.
They're usually like, "No, it's like actually not too bad."
Yeah.
And my third one was Jeezy, or formerly known as Young Jeezy.
Okay.
But that's like, I loved his thug motivation. There was times when I was growing some of my businesses, I would listen to Thug Motivation 1, 2, 3 every day on repeat, just the album straight through.
Yeah.
Love his music too.
Okay.
But genres are just so expansive.
Yeah.
There's wars on between genres.
Correct,
Speak on that a little. Like, I think the one thing where it resonates most is electronic music.
Correct.
Electronic music has like
so many subgenres,
and then certain house subgenres don't like or respect other house genres. Why is there such a discord between these simple things?
I feel between, let's say, electronic music, metal. What else? What else has so many subgenres? Let's stick to those 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So those 2 have so many subgenres, and like you said, some of them don't get along with the other one.
Yeah.
And I feel it's just because one wants to be more, I wouldn't say popular, more well known, more accessible than the other one. But everyone knows the if you think electronic music, most people are gonna think techno and house. So it doesn't matter if you listen to dubstep. You want to make yourself the top dog. You can't, because most people think of house and techno when you say electronic music.
Absolutely. But if you go up to a person that listens and loves electronic music, they will be the first to tell you all of the key and core principles of how everything makes each one different.
Interesting, different.
From BPM to the lo-fi or hi-fi frequencies that they're in. They're just
to the people, the culture, everything.
So many ways to describe it. but it just always amazes me that it becomes a battleground.
It does a very nasty battleground too, to the point where, you know, sometimes relationships are ruined over just
look back in the 60s. They had or the 60s and 70s, from the transition of rock to disco.
Yeah.
People used to beat the crap out of people that listened to disco.
To disco, yeah,
And
for very wrong reasons.
yeah.
Too.
And it's unbelievable to me because it's truly a universal language.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take it a whole nother step further and say, if we ever made contact with a species other than ours in the universe, the first thing that we might want to do is use music to try to communicate.
Correct. Yeah.
Just on the most common level.
Yeah.
A nice docile classical piece to show like peace or something like
Correct.
that.
Yeah. Or even just hitting a drum like at a speed, or a rhythm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's still a language in itself in that sense. It's surprising.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But what are some of your favorite genres that you like to play out when you are DJing? Not when you're DJing weddings, but when you're at the club.
When I'm at the club and I want to play what I want to play, I love deep progressive house. That's what
Sasha, Digweed.
Yeah, I could play that for hours. I could listen to it for hours. I can dance to it for hours. I can everything for hours. That's my
absolutely
favorite.
It's just one of the chillest vibes.
Exactly.
You're just grooving.
To
everything.
Exactly. Yeah. I went pre-COVID. I went to a Sasha and Digweed concert in
like back to back.
Yeah, back to back at the Brooklyn Mirage. Oh. And we were there from 11 to 6 a.m. Like, you know, sunrise, New York City.
See, I wish that the last time I saw them was, I think, 2018, and it was in Denver, but it was only Sasha.
Okay.
But oh my God, like if I go see a DJ for their talent, those two are on the top of my list.
And it was back to back. It was
and that is a
moment.
whole other that's a whole other level. So one of my favorite stories is about you. Is one of the bands or one of the groups that we were talking about earlier is Naughty by Nature, and you renting out DJ equipment along with your business of being a DJ had the wonderful opportunity to actually go in and lend them tables.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
events. Yeah, and that must have been amazing because I'm sure you at least met like a few of the guys of the group.
Yeah.
Like, so can you talk a little on that?
Yeah, I was working for where was that company based out of? I think Maryland. I think, and they needed equipment for the. It was like a private event too. It wasn't a big concert or anything.
Yeah,
it was
no,
a private
something
event.
small.
No, I remember. Yeah, and they needed a mixer, a S9 mixer. That's what they needed. I think they needed a mixer and turntables. So, I think my friend posted the thing on like his social media, and then I told him, dude, I got that, and he was like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah. So he put me in contact with that. We set it up. I didn't really meet them. I just set it up, and then I had to head out to another job. So I didn't get them. I saw them in their walking in.
Still, an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
To have been a part of that.
I can say Naughty by Nature has touched my equipment, whatever.
Of course.
But speaking of touching equipment too, like the guy I bought my turntables from. He was a big New York techno DJ back in the 90s and 2000s. And there's a lot of names I have touched the turntable that I own.
Like I could imagine.
Big names that have touched it.
And even not even big names, local legends like yourself.
Exactly,
like I've met them through you. Like it's such a expansive and wonderful world of people that are extremely skilled on the decks that you get to meet. Didn't you... You've spun with DJ Sega out of Philly, right?
Jersey Club guy?
Yeah.
I probably at a party or something.
Like long before Mad Decent.
Probably. Probably had some rave or some warehouse party back in the day.
I remember us being at the last Mad Decent Block party.
Oh, yeah.
When he was spinning. Do you remember when he dropped the Power Rangers Jersey Club track?
Yeah.
And there was people dancing on the cars in the streets.
He also did the ABC news
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Dun, dun. I think it was ABC or it was some local news thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, concerts. I miss them. I can't wait to go back to them.
Yeah.
It's just such great times that music can provide.
Yeah.
So another thing, you actually introduced me to the music of my favorite artist and one of your favorite artists, Schwangel, or Simon Postford and Raja Ram. And it's funny how like the years over time and like us going to their shows together ended up with me going to their final show, having backstage passes, getting their autographs, and like going to it was at Red Rocks amphitheater, and we got to take a whole backstage tour, going to the pit below upstairs. There's a whole tunnel of every artist that's ever played that signs the wall.
Okay.
And cool. I just saw tens of thousands of names of anyone that's ever played at Red Rocks got to sign that wall. I took pictures of like, I couldn't even get started. Above and Beyond, Black,
just all kinds of
Jack
names.
Black, it goes on forever.
Yeah.
But I need to thank you officially, like that, having that meeting, Raja Ram, like that's an experience that I can attribute specifically to you.
And I thank you for bringing me that signed poster because that's right above my work desk, right there.
You deserve that. You absolutely deserve that.
I look at it, I'm like, dude, that thing's beautiful. I'm like, yeah, cool.
It's one of my favorite pieces I've ever gotten at a concert.
Yeah. It's a dope poster. Yeah, but thank you for bringing that.
Thank you for showing me them.
Now you mentioned like, you know how venues like people sign their names at venues they played or something. I remember 2013 I went to Movement in Detroit, and I came across this, I think it was a techno museum. They have a techno museum. But anyway, we went and like any DJ could leave their signed. And my friend went to Movement 2 years ago. Mind you, when I signed it, it was 10 years ago, give or take. And my friend went and he found my name was still there. He took a photo.
Damn, there you go.
Wait till I'm gonna wait till someone like crosses
little piece of history
crosses over and like puts their name or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing that I'd really like to start on this podcast is giving shout outs to, again, the local community. We're trying to bring it together. We really need everybody to come together at now such a critical point in our history. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the influence you've had on music culture in our local area, whether it be New Jersey or PA or New York. And I wanted to give a shout out to Trenton Social because they've always been a huge influencer of electronic music, and also Mill Hill Experiment. Like those guys kill it. They add a huge part of the nightlife to Trenton and to Hamilton. Let's talk a little bit just about your experience in working with them, because you're there all the time.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so I pretty much met all of them through Mr. J Country. That's how I met all these guys pretty much. I remember I was doing a house night at Social.
Yes.
And then I found out the Monday guy that has an electronic night too, so he stopped by, and which was J Country, he comes up to me, and then we just start nerding out about Jersey Club and music. Like he looked at me like, oh, there's another guy that knows about Jersey Club. Mind you, this was 2012 to 2013, so I wasn't that well known yet. So me and him just started talking about DJs and whatnot, and from there, I started DJing a Wednesday nights with him at McGuinn's, and yeah. That was actually the last time that I saw you spin. That was a long time ago.
That's a couple months ago.
That was a long time ago. I mean, I might have done like a one night off. Yeah, they brought me over.
Remember?
Like, yeah.
And
But-
I randomly popped up, and I was sitting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes they have their regular Monday nights, and
And shout out to Andrew Borko, who runs McGuinn's now, and I think it actually has a residency at Cooper's.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. But oh, so yeah, I was playing with Mr. Country for like a good 3 years, and from that was the transition that went for us from underground DJs to being able to play pretty much any kind of event, like wedding, like a nightclub, bar, whatever. That's when we both learned how to do this, because me and him just learned. We learned off each other pretty much.
Yeah.
And so I met. We worked together for some years, and then.
So, quick question: is this previous to you starting and working with Philly individuals as well, or is this all?
I was in Philly way before I even did anything in Trenton.
Okay, because I knew your presence more so in New Jersey recently, but that's just the local area. But I knew back in the day, like 10 years ago, it was more so I knew you were always playing shows out in Philly and New York.
Correct.
More.
Yeah. So getting in, that's how I met the local scene, through country. But I was always more involved in Philadelphia and New York.
So what organizations have you had
In New York?
work with you in PA or New York?
Oh man,
Some of the
they don't exist anymore because it's a long time ago, yeah.
Well, let's speak on the history.
Let's see who. Let me think of some names. Oh God, I can't think of any other names. There's so many like little small communities.
I remember going to raves with you at FDR Skate Park.
Oh yeah.
And seeing DJ Ghostspin.
That was
or at the Ghetto Meadow raves in Philadelphia that you've
ran those
taken
things?
me
I forgot. I was involved with them. Yeah.
Bangarang.
I've DJed for a few times, but that wasn't them though. They're still around too.
Yeah, are they?
They are. Yeah.
Wow.
But
Shout out to Bangarang.
They're not really doing, because of COVID.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, they're still doing like monthly streams where everyone hops on the like a Zoom call, and that everyone, like, they hear the DJ on Twitch, but then they all see each other party on Zoom. So that's what they're doing right now.
Hey,
yeah,
gotta make what we have,
So I guess people like Bangarang, and you bring that up. I also remember there was one in particular that's very dear to my heart. I don't remember their name, but they were located out of Lacey, New Jersey, or Toms River. They were based out of Toms River, and they were a drum and bass
collective.
Yeah, and
why do I remember that?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember them.
But yeah, shout out to them because they're one of the first New Jersey folks that I've got really involved with. Because other people, like other people, I DJ'd for them, and that's it. These guys was more like, I was part of their sound guy, part of their promoting, pretty much everything. So this was way before I met all these other local guys like Trenton Social Country,
Linda,
all them. Yeah, that was way before that. But back on like the local guys, I met them through J Country, and from there I met all the Mill Hill guys, because I remember we needed like 15 DJs for a silent disco.
Oh wow!
And I didn't want to get people that I already knew. I wanted to get like some newer faces, and then Country came with like all these, not young boys, younger than us, because we're a little bit older.
The next generation. Yeah.
So that's where I met, people like Bach, Ben.
Tommy,
yeah, shout out to Tommy. That's how I met all these other guys. That's what I liked about it. There was a whole new wave of people coming.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Because like I look back at the people that were involved when I was a teenager and whatever. They're all. It's still a hobby to them.
Shout out to Aspire Higher too.
Them too, yeah,
killing it.
Yeah,
killing it.
So. A lot of like people from my era, they're all, they all got kids, they all got families, they left the music thing alone. And there's still some of us that are still here, I guess.
Of course.
But I just love seeing the next generation
progress
take over.
Exactly. The evolution of everything.
Yeah, correct.
No, it's been a beautiful scene, and I've met some of the best friends that I've had, and I've met some friends I've met for one night that I'll remember forever from just going to these events. And it's always great vibes. There's good people there. It's amazing music. There's true talent that is coming up and cultivating itself in our area. And again, I hope that this is another way that artists will come on, especially in the art and music industry, which are now tied together. You'll see, especially the more underground shows, there will be people that are selling their paintings or their clothing,
or they're actually making it on the spot.
Like the live art factor is so prevalent around here, and it's starting to spread out deeper and deeper into the Midwest and everything. But it's just great to see those new artists come up and new talent, sound engineers coming out with new genres. The genres that have come out in the 21st century have been
insane. The amount of them.
Yeah. And it's just a never ending cycle of evolution.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And now you speak on like the evolution of new genres over the years. You look at, I guess, back in the 2000s, it's like every genre like grew from somewhere. Let's say dubstep, it came from the UK.
The UK dub plates.
Let's say
OG, shout out to Mark Newton and N-Type. Love you, man. Miss you.
Let's say that. Let's say psytrance out of like Goa or
straight out of Israel, yeah.
Goa, yeah. But I feel like after the dubstep era, like all the new genres that exist now, they're not tied to a local. They are tied to some local scenes, but they emerge from the internet.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. Much like the old school YouTube forum or Yahoo groups, like you were talking about originally. That's now also progressed in its evolution and figuring out new ways as a larger collective rather than a localized collective.
Correct. Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing to see genres emerge pretty much out of thin air of the internet.
Absolutely.
Instead of like a local city or town,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing I also wanted to ask you about before was, let's set aside the production value of things. Do you like lyricism at all in music?
I know the importance of it. Especially at private events, because most people listen to the lyrics over the music.
Yeah. So shout out to and rest in peace to MF Doom.
Correct. Yeah.
One of my favorite and just an unparalleled lyricist that I think was one of the best of our time.
Yeah.
They took him away too young.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. But lyricism is a core to music itself.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's actually one of the reasons that I listen to a lot more rock spectrum and rap, because if you find a good lyricist, that's what hooks me.
Okay.
So like with you, it's more of the production value,
more the music or the feeling of it.
All right.
It depends on the person.
Interesting.
Really.
Yeah.
But yeah, most people do react more to the lyrics. That's why at weddings you're playing, songs that people can sing, get along, can relate to.
Do you have any lyricists or artists that stick out to you?
No, I can think. I mean, there's a few lines here and there I like, but I can't really think of them. Like, or someone that really like, wow, this guy's an amazing writer or something.
Like with me, like I said earlier, Tom Petty. He just had such a grace to writing his songs. Same thing with Leonard Cohen, if you're familiar with him. Wu-Tang Clan.
Okay.
Guys like the O.C., older school rap. Those guys really took the time to focus on the lyrical part of it, while also having wonderful symphonies and movements. But it's always, with me, the hooks were always in the lyrics.
That's what got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it depends on the person. Right? Like what we just said, depends on the person. For me, it's more the movement of the music, and that's what moves me pretty much.
I can get that because being a DJ, you're creating a flow of energy,
and that's my background. Really, like wedding DJ is not my background.
Yeah,
so
the best DJ. So what makes a good DJ then? Let's talk on that for the future up and comers that are looking to get into our industry. What are some tips from both of our sides that you would give them?
It depends on which
genre you're going into.
Not genre. Which I guess, are you doing more underground or are you doing more private events, clubs and stuff? There's a difference because
I get what you're saying.
When you're more of an underground, you're playing more of what you really feel and expressing it to the crowd. Versus when you're a mobile wedding club DJ, you're playing music that you might not like too much, but you're gonna get a reaction out of out of them.
So a great example I would give isn't local. I'll try to give a local example, but I've been living out in Colorado the last few years. We have one of the biggest dubstep meccas in the world out there, the Black Box. Shout out to everyone at the Black Box that I know. I can't even start with the names. We love you guys. We'll always support. You guys are king in the United States. But the difference between that and the old Beta that used to be there, which was at one time one of the biggest clubs in the United States. But you would have someone like Caspa, who is one of the hugest dubstep DJs in the game right now, play one set at the Black Box and then go over to Beta. Okay. And it would be like night and day.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Just from mainstream to deep, dark, and dangerous.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. Okay.
So, like, what would example be out here? Like, maybe one I could think of would be something like Tsunami Base in Brooklyn compared to what would be like a more mainstream club.
Let's say I'm old. That you got to remember, I don't go to clubs much nowadays. Yeah. But let's see, what's a big club that's I can't think of one. Let's say Rumor in Philly or actually, now you bring that up, Rumor in Philly. It's what you just mentioned earlier, how, let's say, because Rumor had these nights where they brought like really dark techno, deep nights, and then the other night it's like they're playing
electro house, LMFAO,
or Migos or something like that. So, I kind of like those venues that do that have different nights, I guess, catered to different crowds.
Genres. Yeah. That's a lot of what Trenton Social did, right?
Yeah. That's what most of these spots in Trenton do. Really, that's the beauty of it, because it's such a small town, but there's so many like different little communities that come together at one hub.
Yeah, it's very niche here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So speaking on that, what do you think would reignite a nightlife in Trenton? Let's say post-COVID, we go back to, we're allowed out, we're moving forward with it. We actually get to focus on rebuilding the community that we do. What do you think would give Trenton, and I think that Trenton deserves more than a chance for people to actually come and experience it. It's not as bad a place as people make it out to be in the long run. Like, and especially if you're just going out, like, people just demonize it, and I don't think that it's anywhere near how people think it actually is.
Yeah.
So what do you think like would help rebuild and reestablish that line of trust that's needed to have that reflourishing and renaissance of music culture in our town?
The thing about like the beauty of, I guess, being in Trenton is that you're in the middle between New York and Philadelphia. A lot of people think that's a bad thing because all the artists decide to go to those two cities instead of Trenton. But it's great for the smaller communities, like the ones we're involved with, because all these other bigger establishments, groups, artists hear about Trenton and they're like, oh wow, cool, they have a little scene going on over there. But
I've never really thought of it like that.
Yeah, that's and I'll go more into that too later on, like on the professional touring work of that. Yeah, just being in the middle of that. But to have like a renaissance in Trenton is very difficult, because even when I was a teenager, it has always been small communities, kind of not thriving, but just enough to like have a few nights and people having a good time. Yeah. But they're not bringing in, Tiesto or some big DJ.
Of course not. Yeah.
Because it's just a small city. But to have like a renaissance, like what we need to do is just keep doing what you like. Teach the younger wave. Because I'm pretty sure after things go back to normal, there's going to be another wave of people that are going to be doing the parties, the music,
absolutely.
the ones that are doing stuff right now.
I'm sure there's people planning that.
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
Now,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So like the people that were before, like I'm not saying any names, but all the local people that were doing things. I feel that they might just like die down and like, you know, move on to their next area of their life. And then like the newer generation will take over events.
That's
music.
your prediction?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah. Well, it's my prediction just because that's what happens every era.
It's
pretty
the
much.
circle of life.
The circle of life. People get older, they move on to the next area of their life, and they're no longer involved with music. Or
I still have that childhood mindset where I think I'm going to party for the rest of my life.
I do too.
I guess that's why we're in this industry.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how you make it last in this. You know, in this industry. You know, keep a level head. Be smart about what you do. But there is a way to make a living out of, you know, all of this. You know, it doesn't have to end when you go to some stock job or something like that, like, or some, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just,
or you could still end up at a music festival when you're 45.
Probably gonna be me.
Yeah. Probably me too. All right, so another reason why I started this podcast is obviously in the wake of COVID-19, the community needs a format and forum to come on and speak on in every sense how we are going to get past this. So I'd love for you to speak on a little bit of go back to explaining to people what you do and especially how COVID-19 has affected what you do. So
all right, so I am a full-time DJ, sound tech, AV person, and public speaker. Mind you, all those jobs involve having a large group of people. So my industry has went down to the gutter since March, pretty much.
Which was when shutdowns happened for
Correct.
people that are watching in the future.
Correct. And there's been different ways for us to survive this, you know, this thing. Everything from getting creative to doing things differently. In the past few months, it's been a culture change for all event professionals, DJs, public speakers, artists. Pretty much, there's been a huge change for everyone.
Could not agree more.
So, I guess what I mean by getting creative is
streaming services blowing up
big time, yeah. But also, there's also little interesting niches and markets. For instance, here's one that my friend and we discovered that, and it's going decently. A lot of venues, or mostly like bars and restaurants, they can't open up inside, so they have, you know, their outdoor area, tent, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's this market for, they want to move all their audio and TVs and everything into these outdoor tents, and they need professionals to come, you know, to take all the cables, the speakers, the TVs, to set them up in this outdoor setting. And that's a little market that did not exist before all this happened.
Oh, I get. Yeah. Okay. That makes more than enough sense. Yeah.
So
it's about getting creative.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you were telling me that you're still helping, like, what was it? Convention centers and stuff.
Correct. That's what you just mentioned, how streaming. So pre-COVID, the way pharmaceutical companies and real estate companies, they hosted their seminars at hotels, fancy hotels, but these hotels, they can't have these seminars because it's gathering like a large group of people.
Absolutely.
So that's how that industry transformed, where there's only a few technicians and the people running the show, running their company. So we pretty much stream their message to, you know, their potential clients, to their people that work with them. And so these pharmaceutical companies, instead of having like these large galas with, you know, expensive food and all this, now they can still get their message across to even more people because it's all done through the comfort of their home.
Absolutely, yeah. The people that ended up just staying in bed that day.
Correct, yeah.
now have a much easier platform to come on to.
Correct. Yeah. So that's how that side of the events industry is somewhat surviving. And then there's the DJ ones. You know how you said they're streaming and whatnot. Yeah, they're getting into Twitch.
Twitch is blowing up right now.
Twitch, Facebook. I don't know what else people Zoom. Yeah, they do. Oh, that's another one. They're doing Zoom parties now too. DJs are charging money to DJ, Zoom parties, private Zoom parties. That's another way that DJs are trying to get by. And the wedding side of things, the weddings are still happening actually.
That's another thing that I wanted to ask you on.
Yeah.
It's like, are you seeing people that are more open than others, let's say, that are still willing to do?
I've seen a lot of stuff in the past 8 months regarding to weddings, but
we're not taking a side on that. We're just having the conversation.
There's some folks that that stick to the minimal amount of people that the venue allows them to have. Everyone's wearing their mask, everyone's social distance. Then there's the other side where once the drinks start going into people, they start feeling loose. And now
things happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Now you have a large group of people pretty much dancing, with each other.
And it's unfortunate because it is supposed to be a joyous celebration.
Correct.
A grand moment in these people's lives.
Correct.
And again, not taking a side on it, but we're still human beings and we have humanity at the end of the day.
Yeah. So people are still booking weddings, especially right now, because the engagement season is between Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's when most people get engaged.
I always forget their seasons to things in business.
Yeah. But. So that's when people get engaged and they start looking for their their entertainers, their venue, their vendors from January through April. So that side of the business is it's not thriving, but it's surviving. So yeah, like I was saying, just all these different industries are just finding different ways, evolving and getting creative. Because when things go back to normal, we're not ditching this. We're doing what we did before.
Again, when we're so cemented in this way of life to begin with, it's not about picking up and finding a new industry at this point.
Yeah.
I won't make that comment, but other things in the country should figure out a way to do that as well, rather than burning down the system and creating a whole new one.
Yeah.
It's about picking up where you left off and figuring out the best way to continue to move forward.
Correct. Yeah.
And so what are some things that you would give to up-and-comers that maybe were getting into this at the beginning of COVID and then they saw this happen and backed off from it? What are some ways and what's some information that you could give people to help them move forward in this most simplistic way?
So, streaming. Just keep streaming, because right now there are streamers that stream 4 nights a week. DJs that stream 4 nights a week to thousands of people. But here's the thing: they've never played a club or a bar. They just picked up DJing maybe a year ago.
I wish I had that back in the day.
Exactly. And now that they're streaming to thousands of people, they're getting thousands of donations just from streaming online. But here's the thing: they have never played to a live audience. There's actually one girl in particular that I think of. I love watching her because she's so entertaining. Mm-hmm. But she's a great DJ.
Give a shout out.
Yeah, what's her name's? Piku TV, I think, on Twitch. Yeah,
shout out Piku TV. If that's your name.
And her friend Jessie TV. So pretty much these two girls, one of them has DJ to live crowd. That's what she used to do before. But the other one, the more popular one,
I need to say, what a world we live in.
Exactly. Yeah, they DJ to thousands of people, but they never actually DJ'd an actual club. But they're also making a living from this. They're getting so many donations from thousands of people that they can make a living from it. But again, they never DJ to a audience. But just keep streaming, just so you could get your chops up, you could get comfortable in front of cameras, just get comfortable in front of cameras. Keep streaming to remind people that that you're still here, you're still doing your thing. You're not you didn't ditch it just because of the situation. You're still doing it because you love it.
Absolutely. And again, it's another way to inspire people in these times where the number one thing we need is more positivity, less toxicity, and music isn't toxic.
Yeah,
Music is, again, world language.
Yeah.
You listen to it, your body moves.
Yeah.
It's the perfect way to communicate with people and
Absolutely.
not communicate with people.
Like right at the beginning of, the lockdowns and everything, I was on Twitch and Facebook. I was streaming maybe 3-4 nights a week, and people they look forward to it because they were pretty much locked to their computer working from home.
Yeah.
And then they needed something to see or do after work.
Mm-hmm.
And here I was streaming like pretty much every day, and they just look forward to like just listening to me talking back and forth with them, playing music, and just interacting with people just to keep people's
morale up.
Exactly.
Their ardor, their spirit. Yeah.
Yeah. So my thing was just streaming and sharing memes for positivity and it through this entire thing, and reminding people that things will go back to normal one day, and we'll go back to thriving, doing what we do.
It's not about waiting for it. It's about moving yourself forward, getting the attitude to take that step forward and do something for your community, for your household, for yourself, and moving yourself through these dark times that we are now experiencing.
Correct, absolutely.
But won't be forever.
Correct. Yep.
So in that sense, that's the business sense. So what about just some techniques or something that you would tell up and coming DJ and like some things that they should work on, or what they could what they need to focus on to become better DJs in essence?
This is something I told one of my friends that he should work on right now. So let me explain. This guy, he's a DJ. He wants to get more into the events industry to be more of a personality, to be a personality at these things. Yep. And he's a great DJ, but he lacks the confidence with his voice to talk to people on the microphone. So I told him, stream, but use this time right now to interact with people through the microphone, and that's how you're going to get comfortable with it. So that's a good tip, I guess. Use the streaming thing because they're not in front of you.
Absolutely,
but use this time right now to improve your public speaking, pretty much.
And that's another reason of why we have the podcast, because one of the core principles of this is learning how to use our wonderful language and optimize it.
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite, or I don't even know if this is a quote from anybody. I know the pen is mightier than the sword. Absolutely is a quote. But what I would add on to it is your words are the ultimate weapon or tool that you can use, because you can have weapons, but let's say a nuclear war is incited. It was incited by the words that whatever two nations said to each other. Mm-hmm. And your words are the strongest thing and tool that you have in your life. So we all need to learn how to use them better.
Agreed. Absolutely agree with that. Yep.
So working in a non-music sense, what's some information that you could tell maybe like sound engineers or people that are working AV jobs? Like, what are some tips that you'd give them and moving through business right now with COVID?
That side of the industry, a lot of people just they got out of it, and
because it's just a total breakdown.
Yeah,
right
so
now.
they started doing other gigs, but some of us found they're still going on, just streamed. So, and it's a whole learning curve for a lot of us, just because we weren't really streaming before.
Yeah.
So that's the advice I get for that department, I guess, just to learn more about streaming, because that side is not going away. It's a new thing, and there is opportunity through it, pretty much. So I feel like instead of just ditching that career completely just because of the situation, just learn
extra skills that you could add on to it.
Correct. Yeah.
Continue to function.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I think all of those ideas that we just came up with are great. I mean, again, like it's half of it is mindset, and again, continuing to move forward, try to be progressive, try to continue to evolve. I personally think, again, like this is going to come back to stop thinking on a massive scale, stop worrying about the country and think of a localized community base, work amongst your peers.
Mhm.
If you don't have peers, find some
Find some-
peers
yeah,
that you
yeah.
can continue to work and network.
The internet
and,
is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Look at what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And I can't be more. It's so important to continue to teach each other rather than hoard information and try
Absolutely.
to outdo people.
Yeah.
Especially in this time,
Yeah.
we can't do that right now.
No.
We
You
need
gotta
we
stick
need to
together.
be very open and
Yeah.
continue to progress.
Yeah.
So I think that was great. Want to end it on that?
Sounds good.
Well, Dre, again, one of my favorite mentors, upstanding gentleman, and above all, a close and wonderful friend. Thank you
Likewise,
very
man.
much.
Thank you for having me.